What's up, everyone? Welcome to today's video. Welcome to the Video Game Fight School channel. Thank you very much for tuning in. So do I think Gotham Knights is going to get DLC? That's a very interesting question. I'm going to try my best to answer based on what it is that we're seeing. So just lately, the developers added a few things in regard to updates for the game, performance, adaptive trigger implementation, all kinds of really cool stuff. In regard to the PC version, they've added improved stability, crash fixes and all of that. They are pretty much tweaking the game over and over again. This is not something that is new. Usually development studios will take this approach on their games. I know many people say, well, if a game doesn't sell well, they're just going to abandon it. They don't do that. If you abandon your game, how are you going to sell the next one? So first of all, we need to kind of clarify that these devs did not abandon their game. They're going to continue to support it. They're going to add fixes. And that's basically the extent that we've seen. We have evidence for that. Like, obviously, they're adding, in terms of performance, different parameters to make the game run well, to make the game playable and enjoyable. We've been having some of these issues. Some of you may or may not know where in the open world, if you kind of move too far away from an activity, sometimes you're going to get like very heavy frame drops and performance and stability issues. I think it's a spawning parameter issue where, the enemy activities are spawning here. So that area is allocating memory and allocating some of your resources. But when you move away from there and that activity is still going on, you haven't taken out those enemy NPCs, then sometimes you may have some issues. But this is something that happens sporadically. It doesn't happen consistently in my experience. And so in the last few days of playing, I haven't necessarily noticed it. Now, keeping all that in mind, I think the DLC question comes into play. Is it something where the devs are going to throw the game out? The answer to that is I don't think that that's likely. And then if it comes to DLC, I think there is a slight chance that we might be seeing some expansion with Gotham Knights. I say this because we've seen other video games rebound and implement DLC and expansions just recently, especially games that had a very rough start or a very rough launch, even launches rougher than Gotham Knights. I know Gotham Knights gets treated like the worst thing ever in the world, which is kind of interesting because DC fans, y'all are some of the pickiest of all people yet, you don't have much to show for it because Marvel is kicking our butt in a sense. So I'm shocked that, this game doesn't get appreciated, at least for what it is, from some of the people within the DC fan game community. Now, thinking about Cyberpunk 2077 and thinking about a game like Batman Arkham Knight, I think these two games had worse launches than Gotham Knights. I know we have a very much newer generation of gamers who, did not necessarily go through a whole lot of this stuff with the Arkham Knight side, and people that were probably, not even gaming at the time much, because Arkham Knight, many of you may or may not know, got pulled from the Steam store because it had such a poor PC port in its launch. So this was something a lot of people probably didn't know. Another thing, too, was Cyberpunk 2077. That came out as a bad PlayStation 4 port. I think this is probably what Warner Brothers Montreal was, kind of avoiding in a sense. Their game probably could not run on the PlayStation 4, and they decided that they were going to run the game on the PS5. Many people are saying this was promised as a next-gen only title. That's not true. There's nowhere where you'll see that. It's just a PlayStation 4, Xbox One version running on your PlayStation 5 because that machine is more powerful to be able to run what it is that the game is. So seeing that they're adding all of these different parameters, I'm not going to be surprised that games that have actually been in worse states getting DLCs, kind of translate to Gotham Knights getting an expansion in its own right. Because the game is ripe for all kinds of fun stuff going on. It really is, in my opinion, the OG superhero beatdown simulator when it comes to a plethora of heroes that are actually taking over their own city. This is what I think Gotham Knights was designed to do. It was designed to just come in here and provide its fans with, that open world sandbox where you can go in and take on your city, and the city is constantly evolving. The city never sleeps. Crime never fully stops. So there's opportunity here to continue to add and expand on, say, possibly more factions, more villains, more story beats, and so on and so forth. I think even as close to the game's release as we got, the developers, or the voice actors anyways, were still showing off, specific things that they were doing on projects they were working on, seeming like they were having Zoom meetings or even recording sessions at home. Those recording sessions to me seem like they were after all of the base stuff was done, in a sense. I don't know if you guys can remember when, some of the VAs were posting some really cool stuff on Twitter with microphones in their homes, in their home voice studios. I think all of that content or whatever that was, it's probably going to be moving, say, to providing some extra story beats or story expansion. This is where I think things might be. So even if you might be, concerned about how they're going to bring together the voice actors, I don't think that's out of the question. They can always employ their, expertise from wherever they are remotely. The writing team can give them lines to write, and more work can, be done in that aspect in regard to developing more content for the game. So I don't necessarily think that this project is over. And if it is, then that's fine. The devs also probably can use, a change of pace, because this game basically is born from the cancellation of many other games, which is kind of sad because many of you have shown that for the past, many years anyways, we've had a lot of really incompetent people on the helms of the executive in Warner. And that's just the truth. I mean, I know it's harsh. I know, probably they could have, I don't know, maybe I could have done a worse job, but man, it's been such a mess for the most part, canceling a Damian Wynn project and so on and so forth. But I wanted to go ahead and just share my opinions and say, we've seen games that had worse, starts, worse launches, get even expansion on DLC, like Cyberpunk went ahead to, put away the PlayStation 4 support in a sense. That was actually something that they eventually did. They didn't want to support PS4 anymore because the, console couldn't do it. And so, I don't think it's out of the question when it comes to Gotham Knights. So these are my thoughts. Thanks for watching the video. I appreciate you guys' time and audience. Hopefully we'll talk pretty soon in another one. Peace out.